Welcome to Employment Equity Manager Coaching Session. Today we're going to look at what employment equity refers to, the act, why we are doing it, and what steps to follow. So today we're going to cover the meaning of the employment equity in the workplace, your legislative background, a brief overview of the latest act and regulations, preparation from step 1 to step 4, consisting of roles and responsibilities of the forum members, people with disabilities, your implementation from step 5 to step 8, which includes your affirmative action measures, specify timeframes and resources. Monitoring, which is step 9 and step 10, your employment equity documentation, developing your EA12 analysis and your EA13 plan. And then we'll look at the new reporting requirements of your EA4. So let's jump into it. The meaning of employment equity in the workplace. The purpose of Employment Equity Act as of 1998 is to achieve equity in the workplace by promoting equal opportunities and fair treatment in employment through the elimination of unfair discrimination and implementing affirmative action measures to redress the disadvantages in employment experienced by designated groups in order to ensure there's equitable representation in all occupational categories. Now that's a very long definition to remember. But in summary, employment equity refers to equal opportunities within the workplace, especially those from designated groups who were previously disadvantaged. So the legislative background we give you is just a bit of it. Okay, we don't want to get too intensely into it. So employment equity needs to be read in conjunction with the following acts to fully understand the extent of it. So when we look at this, we look at your Labour Relations Act, refers to your disciplinary code, basic conditions of employment act, your employment contracts, your skills development levy act, which you pay over to SARS, your Skills Development Act, which refers to your submission reports to your relevant CETA, Employment Equity Services Act, and of course your BEE. When we look at employment equity compliance, we need to see if your employee number is above 50 employees. If it is, you need to comply with the employment equity regulations. The second factor we look at is if you're doing BEE, you need to comply with employment equity. And the third factor is the threshold of your industry. So you'll see there's a list of them. You can identify which industry your company falls under and the total annual turnover. If it is that number or it exceeds that, you need to comply with the regulations. So the overview of the regulations is put into 10 steps. These are from Department of Labour, which they follow, given to all the companies to follow as well. Okay, we're going to go through each step and try and make it as simple as possible. Okay, here we go. Step 1, assigning responsibility. Appointing an EE manager needs to be done by management. They need to be a permanent employee and report directly to your CEO. They need to fully understand and drive the process internally. Then we establish your forum members through a ballot system, which eliminates any form of discrimination, favoritism in your work environment. The representation is of your company profile demographically and occupationally. Once we've established it and we've had our elections, the first meeting we have is a training session for everyone to understand their roles and responsibilities and the process we follow in employment equity. Once they've had their training session, we give them an acceptance form to ensure that they were not forced to be part of the meeting and they would like to participate. The next one is not required, but it is recommended. It is an option. Confidentiality agreement to ensure that it is a safe space and whatever is discussed in the meeting is confidential. Management does have the last say. Step 2, your communication awareness training. All employees need to be informed of the content and application of the Act. Be sensitized regarding the EE and anti-discrimination issues. Informed regarding the process to be followed. Importance of participation from all stakeholders. In terms of Section 25 of the Act, an employer must display at the workplace where it can be read by all employees a notice prescribed form informing them about the Act. You can do this on your notice boards, or alternatively, you can have a legislative poster in the workshop or in the canteen, wherever it's accessible. Step 3 refers to Section 16 and 17 of the Act, which is your consultation. What should happen is this needs to be started as soon as possible. It's a very important section to be followed. So we'll start with your consultative forum, the existing one that you have. Okay, they've been elected, they've signed their forms, and their first training session has been completed. After that, you start setting up quarterly meetings to ensure the process is followed correctly on a continuous basis. And when you have these meetings, they need to be recorded. So we'll have an attendance register and meeting minutes. When we have meeting minutes, we do not address the person, but the issue or circumstance brought forward. The stakeholders in this process are your trade union representatives, your employee representatives, which is your designated groups, which is represented with African, Colored, and Indian, male and female. Non-designated groups refers to white, male and female, all occupational levels, as well as disabled employees and foreign nationals. When we establish step 4, which is your section 19, your qualitative analysis, we need to look at your employees that are members of the designated groups, as spoken about before. How we do this is through an EA1 form prescribed from Department of Labour, which has your name on it, your surname, which race you are from, which gender, if you're foreign national or not, and if you have a disability or not. It is a confidential document. It is a sensitive document. It will be kept on file with the Employment Equity Manager. The employees that complete it do have access to change it if their status changed through an accident or incident. When we talk about affirmative action measures, which is step 5, first thing people think of is strike action. And affirmative action is actually just positive action. So when we look at this, we need to set your goals and your objectives for employment equity. We take a snapshot of your organizational profile of how many employees you have, which includes their race, their gender, and disability. So the snapshot date is the preceding 12 months. We always work on a 12-month basis because you have your quarterly meetings as well. When we do your objectives, we need to look at your policies, your practices, and your procedures to see how they adversely affect members of designated groups. This forms part of your EA12. We'll look at retention, development, training of those designated groups, and preferential treatment of the numerical goals to ensure there's an equitable representation, which excludes quotas. Step 6 is your time frames. The duration of the plan can be anything from 1 to 5 years. Okay, remember it is a 12-month process. They should be decided on what their succession plan ahead is. Do they plan on growing the company? Are there promotions in place? Does it correspond with your VE planning for your points and the training involved as well? So when you set up your time frames, you need to make sure they are set for 12 months and you have put someone in place who's responsible for driving the process through. Step 7 are your resources. Budgets should be appropriately allocated in order to implement the agreed components of the plan. People such as your managers and your forum, time off for stakeholders to have the meetings and be involved in the process. Your infrastructure such as your project office or meeting rooms. training and information sharing, or any other appropriate resources that you have available in the circumstances. Step 8, when we communicate your plan, you need to look at who's responsible for the implementation of it, where the information can be obtained, which is in your employment equity file with your employment equity manager, the objectives and the duration of the plan. Do you have a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan? The roles and responsibilities of managers and the forum. And then we look at your dispute resolution procedures. This is very important for anyone to understand what process is followed should there be an employment equity grievance. A clear process needs to be followed to resolve the dispute arising from the interpretation and implementation of the EE plan or the EE Act itself. When you do this procedure, you need to make sure that there is a person linked to it, so somebody is responsible for it, as well as a time frame for when it will be resolved accordingly. Step 9, monitoring and evaluation. We've given you a brief list of what the 12 documents are that you can keep in your employment equity file. So it's appointing of the EE manager, it's a contract, your nomination of your ballot forms, acceptance forms, and basic non-disclosure forms, your meeting minutes, attendance registers, your employment equity constitution of how your company works with employment equity and your procedures following into it, your EA1, which is the employee disability declaration, your EA12, which is your qualitative analysis, your EA13, which is your employment equity plan, your EA2 report, which is submitted to Director General. You do not have to include your EA4 as it is confidential because it relates to your remunerations. 10 is your letter of good standing from Quota, which is compensation fund, which you can receive on an annual basis. Your UI56 certificate from the UIF department, your skills development submission, which is submitted in April to your relevant CETA. Now we move on to step 10, which is your report in section 20. Once you've followed all your other steps, your EA12 is done, your EA13, and you've had your meetings, you can now move on to your EA2 and 4. Your EA2 is the numerical goals and targets. It's a snapshot of what your company looks like at those 12 months. You look at your barriers as well of what you've identified and how you plan on achieving it and when. Then we move on to EA4, which is the confidential document consisting of your fixed and variable remunerations of all employees on all levels. When we look at section E, we talk about numerical goals and targets. In order for you to reach a goal, you need to reach your target first. If you have a 2-year plan, your first year is your target, your second year is your goal. You'll see they look at your occupational levels from top management, senior management, all the way until unskilled and divine, and your temporary employees. When you look at the columns listed, they have male, female, your race, if you're a foreign national or not, including disabilities. Now, the areas of non-compliance when audited by Department of Labour refers to section 37, which is your compliance order, where a labour inspector may issue a compliance order to a designated employer if that employer has failed to comply with the following sections listed. Section 16, consultation with forum members. 17, matters of consultation. 19, your EA12 analysis. 20, your EA13 plan. 22, publication of your EA2 report. 24, designated employer must assign an EE manager. 25, duty to inform all employees. 26, duty to keep record of the act, which is your EA5 as well. Your EA file. Okay. If an employer fails to comply with the undertaking, the Director General may apply to the Labour Court for such an undertaking and order the Labour Court. When it's taken to the labour court, you can receive a fine. When we look at your fines, the first contravention is a 1.5 million fine or 2% of the employee's turnover. Should the next year you don't comply and they give you a fine as well, it moves up to 1.8 or 4% of the employee's turnover, whichever is higher. Every year they increase it to ensure that we do take the process very seriously. When we look at factors justifying differentials in remuneration, because we are looking at your fixed and variables, your medical age, your 13th check, your salary, your overtime, and your incentives, you need to justify the remuneration bands that you work on. Please note it is not discrimination if the difference is fair and rational based on one or a combination of the following factors listed. Okay, we look at your length of seniority, your length of service, your qualifications, your work performance, your quality of work, if you are in a scarce position, and what qualifications and experience you have together. The newest regulations that they've brought in is your Section E, which refers to your average and median remuneration and the remuneration gap. So what they want to see now is your top 10% of top earners, bottom 10% of bottom earners, your median earners, and do you have a policy in place to bridge that gap? Okay. If you do, you need to refer to the policies that you follow, how you ranked your salaries, and how you plan on addressing that gap between your top 10% and bottom 10%. Is it because of your length of service, your performance? Is it because people have received increases on how many years they've worked? So you need to make sure that when you draft that policy, it is in line with your industry, with your company, and you need to justify it as well. Thank you very much for watching the Employment Equity Coaching session. I hope that it's helped you. I know it can get quite intense. Should you want to refer to any of the documents, they can be found from the Labour website, or alternatively, you can contact HR and Skills Market and we will help you through the process. Thank you and goodbye.